Hey guys, Scaly Nelson here. I'm really excited about this episode. It's our first interview on the podcast, and we have no other than Alpha Centauri Kid, who's one of my favorite artists. If you have not heard of him somehow, his collectors include Xcopy, Gmoney, Punk 4156, Barat, Yeah Yeah Yeah, Vincent Van Doe, Keyboard Monkey 6529, Sartoshi, Andy, DC Investor, Debussy, and myself. ACK is a very, very smart guy. And I'm really excited to bring this interview to you guys today. We get into a lot of different topics, including minting on your own contracts, different platforms, and lots more. Hey, everybody. Scaly Nelson here. We have a streamlined crew again today for a very special podcast. It's our first interview, and I'm really, really stoked to have Alpha Centauri Kid here with me today. Thanks so much for joining me. How you doing today?
I'm good, man. How are you? Thank you so much for having me, and yeah, I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, man. So we, just to kind of give a background, I think I first, met you on Twitter like maybe 6 months ago or so. And I think it was Last Orders was the first piece I saw. I DM'd you actually because I was wondering if you would do a commission, and you were super nice, and you were like, oh, hey man, like basically like that would be cool, but I'm like super busy and not really sure that's going to happen. But I am working on this other piece right now, and it actually includes your punk in it. So I'll let you buy one of them at the the initial sale price. And that was the right click print. That was pretty awesome. I love that piece. One of my favorite pieces that I own. After that, I know we were kind of DMing back and forth here and there, some late night Johnny Walker Blue you were drinking. I think I was drinking some whiskey, and those were fun days. It seems like ages ago, huh?
It really does, man. Yeah, no, I remember you hitting me up after the Last Orders, and we were, talking about a commission, and I wanted to say yes, but I was kind of trying to project or like predict to the future in a sense, because there was a few other people asking me, and I had already told them no. Like not like no to be mean. It's just trying to prepare for the the remainder of the year, like art wise, and I already had some plans. But serendipitously, I'd already put your punk in right click print, and I thought, hey, good opportunity to see if you might want one of those. And yeah, I'm glad. I was really stoked to get in your collection, because your punk is one of the infamous punks in my opinion, and I just had to put it in the piece. So but yeah, no, it's been yeah. It seems like 6 months ago, man. It seems like years ago. It's crazy.
It really does. It's crazy. And yeah, I mean the timing on my part couldn't have been better. That was pretty fortuitous for me. So, I'd love to hear, like first off, I'd love to just hear how you got interested in crypto and then NFTs.
Sure. Yeah. So, I had been in Dogecoin for a while. I was kind of early in Dogecoin, and sold, bought some, sold some, made a little bit here and there. Nothing major, like, just a few thousand here and there. But that got me interested. And then I had a friend who was like pumping Ethereum. I didn't know anything about NFTs at the time, but I had been doing art my whole life and playing music my whole life and piano and everything, and just kind of like separately. And but yeah, I had a friend who was always pumping Ethereum, just nonstop about Ethereum this, Ethereum that. So I'm like, okay, you know what? Let me look more into it. Then I looked up Vitalik, and he seemed like a genius. So I'm like, okay, yeah, I got a little bit of Ethereum, not very much at all. And then he also told me about Beeple, and then I saw Beeple's huge sell in March, and that kind of onboarded me. That kind of like a light bulb went off, like, oh wow, I can, I'm an artist. Let me test the waters here. And I just thought, this could be a good opportunity for me to combine my art with my music in a cool way, because just making music alone was always kind of just boring for me in a bit. And the art I always did just for fun. But anyway, yeah, so I tested the waters. I put a few pieces I'd already made up on OpenSea back in March. And within a week, I made my first sell. I think it was probably like it was like 0.01, I think, at the time, which is maybe, gosh, I know price was in like the $1,300 to $1,500 range, I believe, back then. But
which piece was that?
Yeah, it was this piece. It was on my old OpenSea that I kind of just left alone after I started gaining traction on Foundation. So yeah, it's my pre-ACK account.
Okay.
And it has some old the first ever pieces I minted on the blockchain are there. And I kind of kept it a secret. And if you search pre-ACK, you'll see it. But I kind of kept it a secret up until a couple months ago, and just let people go wild on it. And of course, everything, sold out instantly. And it kind of became a headache. And so, yeah, the first piece sold for like $100, and I couldn't believe it. And I was telling my wife, and she was just like, oh, okay, yeah, big deal, whatever at the time. And because, you know, we didn't know what the heck any of this was. And she thought it was just another thing I'm getting involved in, because I was always
like a small little project that you'll get over in like a month or two.
Yeah, exactly.
Had you ever thought about selling art before that?
No. I mean, yeah, prior to that, I just would make memes and art-based memes all the time, just for fun, over like for you know, the last decade or so, just in my free time, just for fun, and photoshopping memes and whatnot.
Who was your audience back then when you were making these?
Like for fun?
Yeah.
Oh, just me. me and like a couple of friends.
How does that differ now when you're making art that you know is going to be seen by thousands of people?
Gosh, yeah, the pressure's definitely on, but I try to not let it interfere with the vision. Like, I'm definitely more cautious now about like sharing previews or whatnot, just because I like to let the reveal be like the finally minted piece. So, but you know, back then I would share more previews and stuff like that. But yeah, the pressure is definitely on, but I feel like I thrive under the pressure, so I kind of like it, and it's, you know, it's an amazing experience altogether for sure.
It's just so cool. That's something that's so cool about this space is, you know, I kind of view the whole space as not just NFTs, but Twitter and the whole community that talks, you know, on Twitter, and it's like a big family, and it's just a way. If you're sitting in some place, no matter where you are in the whole world, it's a way to like be part of this huge community and share art and share ideas. And, you know, this is a great example, I think.
Yeah, no, I love that. I love that, like, within our own community, we have our own, I don't want to say celebrities, but we have like our own personalities. And I think it's so mixed, and it makes it so perfect, like, for our little niche on the internet, because, you know, we're all just in our own little zone doing our own thing, and it's, you know, it's the best. I love it.
So I saw, I was researching some of your earlier works, and I had forgotten about the pre-ACK works, but the first one I saw was on Foundation Mars circa 2069. It has Elon Musk, and
yes.
It looks like it's sold for 0.6 ETH back on March 28th, 2021. So tell me a little bit about that piece.
Yeah, so that's kind of whenever I start my timeline. Like, the pre-ACK was kind of just messing around. So, like, yeah, as far as my timeline is concerned, personally, I consider that my first official sale, essentially. So yeah, that piece, I had made just a still image of Elon. I wanted to make like a cool, like, Renaissance era art piece, but of Elon as the Emperor of Mars. And just because I'm a big Elon fan, and Tesla, SpaceX, etc. And so yeah, I started with that piece, and I animated it in Photoshop, and I already had the music made, and the music just seemed to really flow with it. So yeah, I got invited to Foundation. Back then it was a lot harder to get on Foundation. Like, I had to like share art, and you had to like really try back then. You couldn't just say, hey, can I get a Foundation invite, like you kind of can now. But so yeah, I finally got invited on, and then I made the piece, and I shared it. I shared it on Twitter and Instagram, just using hashtags, and I tried not to tag people too much because, you know, it just gets to be old and redundant. So I would just use hashtags back then. And this pro soccer player, Quincy, America, really cool guy. He happened upon the piece on Instagram, and he DM'd me saying, hey, I really like that piece. I want to go bid on it. So I'm like, oh, amazing. And at the time, I couldn't believe that someone was going to spend 0.6, which was like, you know, an insane amount of money back then to sell art for, in my opinion. And yeah, I was blown away. Yeah, so he went and bid on it, and he won it. And then he asked if he could sort of commission a piece from me, but like an open piece for me to create whatever. So yeah, I created another piece called Star Dad, and I made it, and yeah, he ended up buying that one as well. And then I made a few other pieces that kind of set, and Gmoney bought one of my next pieces called Punk Party. Gosh.
Yeah, I saw that.
It's the Gmoney Punk Party piece.
And then I was curious, that was going to be my next question. So when you got Gmoney as a collector, I mean, that's obviously a pretty big deal. Was that kind of spontaneous? Did he just buy it, or?
Yeah, so I made it because I didn't really, like, I knew of Gmoney. because of his punk. And I knew he was like an important figure. I just didn't realize, he was one of the biggest leaders in the space at the time. But because it was all kind of just happening so fast. But yeah, so for that one, I tagged him saying, hey, I made this punk piece. I don't remember what I said exactly, but I know I tagged him showing him the piece, and he ended up buying it. And I didn't know it was him until after he bought it, and he ended up adding me saying, hey, that was me who bought the piece. And I was in shock. I couldn't believe it, and definitely celebrating that one. And yeah, from there, I just made, a few small sales here and there. And I just kept grinding and working.
That's so cool. And then I saw Lupify Lane. That's a pretty cool one. And again, another pretty famous collector.
Yeah. That one, Lupify didn't buy that one. That one, I liked his punk, and I like, he's very like, he likes wizards and whatnot, and I wanted to make like a wizard piece, so I figured, I might as well incorporate him into it. Yeah, so I made that piece. That was a really fun one to make, and that one set for a while, though. I think that one set until after my last orders came out, and then after last orders came out, people went and just bought everything off my foundation, which was pretty crazy.
And then, yeah, if we could talk about your stuff on OpenSea, because it's pretty awesome. I mean, you have kind of two different collections. You have the unique editions, or unique kind of one-on-one editions, and then you also have your regular editions. And I believe the first one was Last Orders, correct?
Yeah. Last Orders was the first piece I minted on my manifold contract. So like I had my biggest sell on foundation to like Richard and his co-founder Eric of Manifold. They bought this piece called the Declaration of Independent Contracts, and after that I went into Xcopy's Discord, and I would hang around in there often, and I pitched this idea of doing this piece that you can see called Last Orders. And fortunately, he agreed to collab with me on it. And then one of the reasons he agreed was he wanted to support me on my own contract. And so that was the first piece on my ACK contract. And yeah, we did an edition of 27 for 0.6 each. And the pricing was his idea, actually. We could have priced it at 10 each. We could have priced it anything we wanted because he's Xcopy, but he was like, hey, you know what, we should set the price low around your average price, and then, let the secondary do its thing. So yeah, I kind of learned from him early on, like, you want to set the price reasonable, and then let the secondary market decide its value from there. And I think that's also been a key to my, trajectory thus far. But yeah, so we did Last Orders, and then I set for a while after that, like just wondering how am I going to follow this up, because it's the next, like I collabed with the best there is, in my opinion. So now I got to really step it up to like follow this up. And so then I came up with the idea for the unique edition. So it's like the same piece, but each one is slightly different, which is the right-click print.
Yeah, that's the first one of your pieces that I collected. And I remember that part of it, I didn't even realize it had that at first. I mean, I already loved the piece. And then once I received it, I realized that they had different properties and there were subtle differences. And then I started, looking, I blew them all up on my big monitor and was looking at all the different ones and finding the differences. And that was really cool because like when you first see it, you don't notice. But then if you look closely, you do see these little changes, like different posters on the walls, different things, different Polaroids coming out of the camera. Right. I think I got the Mad Dog Jones one, which was pretty sweet.
I just wanted to do something a bit different because, I just did the edition with Xcopy. So I wanted to give the same people who I wanted to give more than just one person a chance to collect again. And I also knew that I wanted to tell more of that guy's story, the right click save guy, because we put him in Last Orders, and I thought he just seemed like, there's more to him. Like, why is he right click saving us? What's the deal? What's the story behind him? So yeah, I kind of wanted to tell my own interpretation of his story and show more of his life. So I came up with right click print, and I thought it would be cool to have unique editions. So each collector has special things about their own one instead of just a traditional edition. And then it led to the one of one, which was my super rare Genesis control generate.
Yeah. So I do remember thinking that when I was looking at those first two pieces, the Last Orders and the right click print, that it's sort of like you created this whole world. And the style is very similar. It's very high resolution, which is pretty contrasting to most NFT art, I would say. Most of it is not super high resolution. Definitely a very particular look to all three of the pieces. And we're looking at your super rare one now. And so tell me, I don't know if you still have the record. I think you probably do, but this was the record sale for a Genesis piece on Super Rare, correct?
Yeah. So the prior record was held by Beeple. His timepiece sold for like I think $120,000. I don't remember how much ETH it was, but 120,000-ish, 140,000, something like that was the Beeple record. And then this one sold for 165.29 ETH, which at the time was probably like 600 something thousand. And so of course it was absolutely insane to sell a piece for that much.
Did you ever think? Did you ever think when you said Beeple was when you found out about NFTs, and then less than a year later, did you ever think you would have a piece that would sell, that would break his record?
Oh, absolutely not. I mean, the whole thing is wild. Like if someone told me, like I'm confident in myself and my art, but if someone told me like, hey, you're going to break Beeple's Super Rare record, in September or whenever it was, I would have been like, get out of here. But yeah, no, it's been absolutely wild, and I'm super thankful. And yeah, I still hold the record. I think it's going to be kind of hard. I mean, I want to hold it for as long as I can. Eventually someone will beat me, but I already had like pieces selling in the 60s range. So that, I think that really led to, this selling for so high. But plus also it was the final of the series for those 3 pieces. So, and several big names wanted it. So that definitely helped.
And then what was the piece that you made after this piece, the Super Rare Genesis piece?
Yeah, so it's a little bit controversial because I made this piece and I'm like super high on the sell, and like I just couldn't believe it. But I spent over a month working on Control Generate. So yeah, it took a long time. I definitely tried to hone in and make it special. And so I remember sitting in my office at home, thinking, what can I do next? And this is the very next day, and I just had the idea, let me see what just a blank piece with just a table and a vase and a glass of wine looks like. So then I just made that in Cinema 4D, and it's called Till Death Do Us Part. It's on OpenSea. And then I had the idea to, like, it just hit me like a ton of bricks, like make this piece an evolving artwork. But so yeah, you see it in its current stage right now. But when I just started, when I had the idea, I had just a table with an empty vase and a glass of wine. And I minted it because I knew it was a special idea because I hadn't seen someone create an evolving work of art like that yet. So, something was telling me, yes, I just had this huge sell, but go ahead and just do this because it's a rare opportunity. So yeah, I did it, and I listed it for 200, expecting it would sit for a couple months. And yeah, of course, BVD came in and swooped it in, sniped it for 200 within 5 minutes of me listing it.
Wow.
And yeah, and I was in shock. I remember just shouting at my wife, we just sold a piece for 200. And she was like, what? She couldn't believe it.
That's awesome. I remember that when that happened.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's one of the things I really like about what you're doing is it's not just art that becomes an NFT just because it can. It's, clearly you're aware of kind of the possibilities that being an NFT offers. And I'm curious, a lot of artists will ask people, like they'll ask me for advice sometimes. And my number one advice is to not use, is to use your own contract. And it seems like you kind of figured that out really early. And I think you worked with Manifold and Richard. I'm curious kind of how did you realize to do that so early?
Well, I mean, yeah. So whenever when I was on Foundation, there was only like three or four artists using Manifold. Mad Dog Jones, Fuckrender. I can't remember who else at the moment, but those are two of the bigger names that I remember. And it just seemed special because you're selling, like you become the platform. Like it's your token, it's your contract. It has your name in the contract. And that's when I kind of started to learn, like, okay, this OpenSea shared contract, you're not really minting one-of-ones on your, technically you're not, because it's all just a shared contract. So yeah, I agree with you. I think artists should be on their own contract. And fortunately, I became friends with Richard whenever I sold him that piece declaration of independent contracts. And they onboarded me the next day to set up my own Manifold contract. And I didn't, I mean, Richard is the one who taught me how to do how to update the metadata. And also I work with Young Weekend, who works with Manifold as well. And him and I work a lot together. And he helped code the ethereal rows for me. And so yeah, once I realized you can change a piece of art after it's been minted, it just seems special and like a really cool thing to do.
So how does that work on a technical basis? Is it whoever controls the keys to the contract can go in there and change it? Is that how it works?
Yeah. So like since my ACK contract is controlled by my wallet, only I can go in. Like Richard and them, they can't even go. I mean, they could probably go in and do it like through their system since they're the Manifold creator. But essentially, only I can go in with my wallet, connect wallet and Etherscan, and then update the metadata via certain. There's like these preset. Like if you go to the contract and you go to write contract, and there'll be these preset things you can go in and adjust. Yeah, so that's how we used to do it. That was like the more technical way. Now with Manifold, they've made it to where their studio is like their minting page. You can go in and just edit a token. So like if I want to go edit till death, I just go in and click edit, upload the new stuff I want to upload, and yeah, it's quite simple.
That's cool.
It's interesting to me that something that detractors of NFTs would use as a negative, you kind of flipped it on its head and turned it into a feature rather than a bug, like that, the ability to change metadata.
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it. I mean, I think it was just meant as a like a feature or like editing capability in case something went wrong. But yeah, now I'm happy to be able to use it in this kind of fashion.
That's a good point, Pep. I mean, you think of locked metadata as the gold standard, but this is technically not locked because it's changing, but it's sort of the other end of the spectrum. I mean, it's like the typical OpenSea contract has centralized metadata that is not locked or even hashed, or there's nothing to really verify it later on.
Yeah. And
this is sort of the whole other spectrum of it, where yes, it's malleable, but there's a I guess a company and an artist that stands behind it, so you kind of know that it's kind of part of the art. The art's almost like a living piece.
Yeah. With this one especially, till death do us part. I think it's special because I hope I live another 300 years, but that whenever I do die, it'll get locked in forever, and that's going to be the final piece, locked in. So I think it'll be a cool journey, and I take my time on it. Like I try not to rush it. I try to only work on it when I'm really feeling the motivation, because it is a lifelong commitment.
Now, do you think you'll only add to it, or would you also subtract?
Well, yeah, I mean, who knows? What if the house gets hit by an asteroid and I have to rebuild it? Anything can happen.
Oh man, that's cool. Yeah. So in theory, it could completely transform.
Absolutely, yeah. Whatever the muse decides.
That's pretty cool. And along the same lines as the other thing I've noticed about you as a successful NFT artist is, and again, I mean, a lot of it's just your ability as an artist and the fact that what you create is what people want, but besides that, because that's subjective, so you can't really tell another artist like, hey, just make your stuff really good. But what you can tell them is you can say, hey, really figure out the coding aspects to some degree, understand how important the contracts are. And I think the other really important piece, which you seem to have nailed, is the whole scarcity versus supply. Like how do you sort all that out? Like you don't want to overproduce or underproduce.
Yeah. Thank you for saying that. I'm lucky to have had like X copy as to a soundboard, occasionally to bounce ideas off of, because, if anyone has a great trajectory, it's him, because, and he's done it all. He's done editions, he's done everything. But early on, I realized very quickly, like, oh, wow, okay, you shouldn't just mint everything you make. Once I realized that, then, yeah, I started to really scrutinize what I was minting. And then I did a few editions early on because the demand just, after the Xcopy collab, naturally, the demand just rocketed. So I did a few editions after that to kind of level out the playing field and the collector base. But since then, I've been very I did my Super Genesis and I did the piece for Xcopy, but I have some artists you'll see, like once they get in Super Rare, they just start minting, and I think that's, in my opinion, that's probably not the best move, because you want to protect your value and your scarcity, and you want to continue increasing value over time. So yeah, I think it's very important.
I wanted to go back a little bit and talk about because I remember when you put out the Molotov glitch and then later the Galaxy Gas Wars, which are addition pieces. And then you introduced a cool element where you could burn 2 of them, I think, to get a burn token. And there's your Discord. I think it started around that time. Maybe that's just when I entered it, but it started to. It was really fun. Like everyone was really into it. And tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah. So this was my first. The Molotov Glitch Bombs was my first edition after the Xcopy collab. And I had already done right-click print, and I was building Control Alt Generate, but it was taking so long. I wanted to have another edition, and this seemed like a cool, fun mixing 3D with glitch art type of a thing I could do. I did an edition of 50, but like 25 red, 25 blue, and I think I did 25 red, 25 blue, or 25 WAGMI, 25 GMI, and then I wanted to be able to allow for people to reduce supply and increase value theoretically. So I came up with a burn token idea. And whoever owned NGMI and the WAGMI could burn them to get a burn token, which was a different piece of art, similar piece of art, but different. And it went over really well. Like I was really if you look at the prices now, it's just crazy how they've held their value. Like I'm very proud of this.
I was noticing that they've done really well. And of course I missed out. I could have got one for, I think, 1 ETH, and for some dumb reason I didn't get one. But it happens. Yeah. And for those of you listening, if you go to Alpha Centauri Kid's Twitter and then click on his profile, the link tree, it brings up all of these different works. Pep, go back to the Molotov glitch. I'll just kind of describe it a little bit. So it's kind of, to me, it's part of the same world, right, as the other 3 pieces. So it's like this kind of dark, ominous, high resolution. It's a Molotov cocktail, like a bottle of alcohol with a flame on top, which is colored and looks very kind of Xcopy-ish. And then the label, there's the WAGMI and the not going to make it ones. And, one's blue and one's red. And they have it actually kind of looks a little bit like a grifter face now that I think about it. Xcopy's newer project grifters. Maybe he copied you, dude.
I guess he copied. What the hell, Xcopy?
It actually looks quite a bit like grifters now that I see. That's pretty cool. So it basically has a grifter on it, and which makes me want to buy it even more. And then next to it is a Polaroid of ACK. And then the burn token, go back, Pep. I forget when you bought one of each and then burned them, then you got the burn token, which is sort of like enhanced. And at the bottom, it has flames.
Yeah, so this one actually explodes, the burn token.
Oh, wait, let's keep watching it. I didn't even know that. Oh, my God. So we're watching the video.
It's kind of slowed down.
Cool.
In full speed, it actually blows up. And I wanted to, I wanted the burn token to be, not cooler, but, enhanced, like you said, just to make it more valuable in a sense.
So have you noticed, another thing I've noticed with some of the NFTs I own that are more high, I think bigger files, like movies, kind of like this one. Mm-hmm. Like this one seems to load great, but like some of the ones I own, like don't ever load correctly. And it's pretty frustrating. And I don't know if that's from the contract or just from the fact that it's too large of a file and OpenSea can't handle it. Do you know anything about that?
So I think OpenSea's max is 300 megabytes, which is pretty huge. Like most platforms like Foundation and even Super Rare 50 is the max. But I've talked to Super Rare a bit, and I think they're going to increase that up to 100 soon, hopefully. But I think it could be a file size issue, or even sometimes just the dimensions of the piece might be too big or something like that. But I try to stay within the parameters of. I try to go less than the parameters, because if you get to that max, you start to run into lagging issues.
And then I was noticing it looks like the first edition was actually an edition of 300 that was bought by Starry Night Capital, and it looks kind of like a Van Gogh Starry Night piece.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that came out later. That came out. When did that come out? That was definitely after my my glitch bombs and my Pepe bots.
Okay.
But yeah. So I made this piece. I'm not really at liberty to say what they are or why they bought 300 of them. But I made this piece, and DVD liked it, and he asked if I would make 300. And I said, yes, of course. And so, he bought all 300 of them, and I'll leave it to him to announce why they own 300 of them. But I love this. Like, that's one of my favorite pieces I've made. Just I'm a big Van Gogh fan, and yeah, it was really cool to sell all 300 of them to Starry Night.
That's cool. I could come up with some ideas of maybe what he's thinking there, but I won't speculate.
Okay.
So I wanted to ask you, you've had some amazing collectors, probably VVD and Starry Night are probably got to be your biggest collectors, but lots of other ones too. I'm curious how that whole relationship between you and the collector works. I'm also kind of curious if it's ever had any negative impacts, like if there's ever been any criticism that you've heard from other people or that maybe you think, like, does it ever get kind of weird? Like, how do you handle that?
Well, I mean, yeah, there's definitely been a few moments where things might get like a little, like I've learned to not overshare art with the collectors, because especially for me, like I try to like do interesting things and be surprising and dramatic and whatnot. So I've learned to keep all that to myself and not ask for feedback, because if I do ask for feedback, I'll ask X copy or like another artist, but it's kind of rare. I try to just let the muse decide. But yeah, so I think there's a boundary there. Like I'm really cool with most of the collectors, the bigger collectors that have collected me, like 6529 is, he's great. DVD's great. Plenty of others. Barat is great as well. Anonymous, all super, and you, and there's everybody just super cool here. But I try to, tread lightly and not over ask or not over, like, I don't really ever ask like, hey, check out my new piece. I don't do that for sure. But like, I will say, hey, guys, let me think of an example. Oh, like 6529, I love, like, he can just tell me honestly, like, hey, yeah, good idea, no, bad idea. He has no problem being just straight with me, which is great. And same thing for Vince, and most people for the most part are just cool.
That's good.
But to newer artists, I would suggest, keep that line there, and just if you need advice, definitely get with your artist friends or whatever first, because you want to let the collectors be surprised by the work.
Oh, speaking of, I want to talk about Pepe with a balloon. Can you describe that work? That was great. And I had a couple of questions about that. So maybe describe it and then we'll talk about it.
Sure. Yeah. So surely you're familiar with how it started, right?
Yeah. It looked like Banksy's.
Girl with the piano. So
yeah.
So ever since I saw that, ever since I saw Banksy shred that piece, I knew I wanted to do a digital like rendition of that somehow. And I thought, you know what, let me do Girl with a Balloon, but it'll be a red piano. So I started working the scene, and Christie's, the NFT Now guys hit me up saying that them and Christie's were doing a show together, an auction together, and asked if I wanted to be in it. And I'm like, yeah, of course. And I knew, I've always known if I ever get into Christie's, I got to rug them somehow just for fun.
I love it.
Because why not, And since I'm kind of known for changing metadata, once I shared the artwork, I was certain they were going to realize, oh, he's going to freaking rug us, or he's going to change the art. But no one ever really knew ahead of time, and which I was glad about. But so I didn't know what was going to happen. I knew the girl was going to leave the scene, and it took me a few days to, you know what, Pepe, I think it'd be perfect if Pepe came in holding the Sorry balloons, because the muse can't be bought or sold, is essentially what happened. So, yeah. And
do you know who bought that piece?
Yeah, it was 6529.
So did he not know that was going to happen?
No, I think he was under the impression something was going to happen, because he was very playful about it, and he was like, he demanded to know where that little girl went. he was real upset about it, acting like a Karen at first. But no, I mean, it was all in good fun. But I'm fortunate. Yeah, I'm fortunate that he's a big supporter of mine, and it was fun. I'm glad he won it. Yeah, it was a fun experience, because even in Noah with Christie's DM me like, dude, like, what's going on? Like, why would you do this? And I'm like, hey man, look, it's all good. Don't worry. The collector,
that poor guy. I remember when the punks disaster happened, and he got so criticized. But to his credit, he's always stood up, and he seems like a really nice guy.
Yeah, he is. I definitely was like, hey man, look, it's all good. The collector's happy. Don't worry. And I said it was part of the plan this whole time, like doing this. And he loved it. He was like, dude, he's like, the ball's on you to do this to Christie's is awesome. He's like, you're awesome. So I was glad it went over well, but either way, I knew I had to do it.
So are there going to be any more invitations from Christie's, do you think?
Probably not. I don't know. Maybe, if not, we'll try Sotheby's next and see what happens.
And then, so tell me a little bit about your second super rare piece.
Okay, yeah. So I love All Time High in the City. It's one of my favorite pieces aesthetically, and it's just such a compelling piece. Like it pulls you in. So yes, by X copy. Sorry. And I've known I wanted to make a 3D version of it for a while now, and I finally just sat down and started. And I love it. I love, not to toot my own horn, but I'm so proud of how this piece came out. And once I made it, I knew I couldn't sell it because it felt weird to try and sell it. So I'm like, you know what? The only right thing to do is to mint it and to gift it to X copy because, he collabed with me back when I was a nobody and essentially opened a door for me to go out and prove myself. And I'm forever thankful to him. So I thought, you know what, this is the best move to gift it to him and to say thank you because he's done a lot for the community. And it's one of my favorite pieces I've ever made, and I'm glad he owns it.
That's really cool. Did you tell him about it in advance, or did you just drop it in his wallet, or how did that work?
No, I minted it. And I transferred it to him, and then I DM'd him, and I let him know. And he was obviously he was, oh, dude, this is amazing, and he loved it. And I was very thrilled with his response.
Yeah, it's really cool. We're looking at it now. It's really cool. You got the Reaper in the front of the boat, and the businessman with the white teeth and the briefcase in the back of the boat, and the Reaper's kind of looking at him and then looking at us. And then I always wondered why is the guy in the X copy piece, it's just funny why the guy's kind of smiling. So I wanted to make sure I had this guy smiling as well somewhat. So I was thinking of something when you were talking about giving art to X copy. I wonder if I would imagine he gets gifts from other artists, but I don't know. I'm not aware of a ton of that happening. Is that something that's pretty common, do you think?
Definitely not on Super Rare. You don't really see, that was one of the things when I was getting a little bit of feedback. People were like, well, people don't really gift art on Super Rare. So I thought, well, you know what, good, because I want to do that. It would have been weird. It would have been weird for me to do it on my ACK contract, and what better platform to do it on than Super Rare, because that's where, he got his stardom. And I I made it back there full circle, and it seemed like the best place to do it. Yeah, that's really cool. And then on kind of a different note, I was just thinking of something when you were talking earlier. You've had the fortune of being able to, make a lot of money on art. So it doesn't really, you're in the top 1% of artists in that way. I've seen some criticism lately, which I totally understand, from artists who are kind of trying to make it in the NFT space, and they clearly are frustrated by all these PFP projects, and because they can easily make over $1 million with real crap art. And meanwhile, these really talented artists are barely selling anything. And I was kind of curious what your thoughts were on that. Yeah, it's definitely, I've been super lucky and fortunate, and I've worked very hard to get where I'm at, but I'm definitely thankful and lucky. And there are definitely some artists out there who are amazing who kind of get overlooked, I think, and because a lot of people are just looking for their next flip or whatnot. And it's kind of just the name of the game, unfortunately. But I have a friend who wanted to get into the space, and he's an in real life friend, and he sees my success, and it kind of kills the relationship a bit, because he's coming in and he's a good artist, but he's not getting that immediate recognition that he sees me getting. And I'm just like, hey man, you can't compare your trajectory or your path to mine, because mine's just so unique and so different, that if you do that, you're just gonna be in your feelings about it. And if you're here for the art, then just make the art you love and mint the art that you feel a connection to, and just keep moving forward. And my advice to any artist is to just try and be, even though it's hard, try and be as different as you can, or try and find ways to be, unique or in whatever aesthetic you're in, just because it's so hard to stand out in the crowd. Yeah. And along those lines, have you doxed yourself much in real life? Do people you hang out with every day know that you're this big a deal in this space? My family, my wife, of course, and my in-laws and my sister-in-law and my brother-in-law and my brother, just my close family. And then unfortunately, before I quit work, I worked for the government, and before I quit them, they found my Twitter and they found an interview I did. And I did it undoxed, like I did it like showing my face and whatnot. So they found it and they connected it to me. They were happy and proud of me. So, but once they found that, I knew, okay, you know what, it's time to quit, because that was one of the reasons. But the people around town, no, not really. But like, yeah, like there's a few people from work who know, and close friends and family. Yeah, but I try not to talk about it too much because it's just one of those things.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, on a much smaller scale. I had a similar experience where when I was in New York, I was with some friends of mine that I hadn't seen in a long time. And they don't care about NFTs or anything, but it was NFT NYC week, right? So of course I had to explain like why I was there. And we were at a couple of parties, and then I would like meet people, and then we'd start talking, and then they'd be like, oh, you're Scaly Nelson. Oh, cool. Like, oh, and they were just cracking up. They're like, what? Like, are you like some like celebrity and NFTs? Like, what is going on? Like, I don't know. Yeah, it was pretty funny.
It's definitely strange. And yeah, it blows my mind that I have to like kind of think about, I need to think about what I'm tweeting. I mean, not really, but because I can tweet something and it just gets reactions, quite quickly. And I'm definitely very careful about sharing other people's work. And because, I could tweet a project. I'm sure same for you and same for a lot of us. If you share a project and that project is trash, they're going to, hey man, like, why the hell did you share that with us?
Yeah, I do kind of feel that. Like just the other day I was in a Discord and like someone I'd never met was like, oh, hey, I just bought this because you tweeted it. And I'm like, huh, okay. I'm not sure I really wanted you to do that, but okay. Yeah, I guess that's how it works sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. It's definitely a double-edged sword for sure.
Well, awesome. I had a couple, I think, closing questions I wanted to ask.
I just wanted to ask, so, I mean, you've mentioned a couple of times in the conversation about the muse, and it's in your bio. It brings to mind for me The War of Art, the Stephen Pressfield book, which is about the creative process and encouraging the muse into your life. I just wanted to ask about your process. Like, how do you create? Where do you create? Do you do it every day? How does that work for you?
Oh yeah, thank you. Yeah, so gosh, like if I'm like in a lull and I don't really have anything I'm working at the moment, yeah, sometimes I'll just kind of sit and play piano a bit and just see what visuals are come to me or whatever. And but yeah, I'm working on a one-of-one right now, like a super insane project that's going to drop on the 18th. It's already pre-purchased, tentatively pre-purchased, but yeah, so I'm working that now. But prior to that, I was kind of like, man, like, where'd the music go? Is she here? Like, what's going on? And then just all of a sudden, just, I say she, but the artistic intuition or instinct just comes back to me like full force, and I get this idea. And so, yeah, it just comes in waves. It's for the most part always there. Like I'm always have ideas, and I have ideas that I've had before that I want to work on. But yeah, so like, it's weird. It comes in waves and it just happens. And I just go, when I get a really good idea, it's more of like a feeling. And I just go full on with that and I follow it until completion. And that's kind of where I'm at with this current one-on-one right now.
And do you ever feel limited by the technology as far as like, are there things you wish you could do and you just don't have the software knowledge, or have you just learned all that on the fly, or how did you kind of tackle that aspect of it?
Yeah, well, that's why I started doing 3D art, because I started off with Photoshop and I just knew it was too limiting. So yeah, I started with 3D, and now I feel like if there's a project I want to do, I'm fairly certain I can do it. It's just a matter of time. So yeah, I'll do whatever it takes to bring a vision to life. At this current stage, yeah. And
are you full-time in this now, or do you have an outside job?
No, I'm full-time, yeah. I quit the government on December 28th, I think.
That's nice. I remember when we met, you said you were still working, and I couldn't believe that.
Yeah, no, it's too much to do both for sure at this level.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, I don't see how you could do both. That's crazy. And I'm sure your heart just wouldn't be there anyway, your regular job.
Yeah, exactly.
So I wanted to ask you about your kind of collecting side. I don't actually know anything about that. Are you much of a collector? And if so, kind of when did you collect your first NFT?
Yeah, I started, I think the first piece I collected was photography art back on one of Deez's, spaces. Mm-hmm. It was right after I made my first big sale of 42 with the Lonely Foundation. But it wouldn't be on this wallet. It's on my old foundation wallet. Yeah, I collected photography, like 3 or 4 pieces of photography. I think I kind of collected photography because it's the one medium I don't really do myself. So it seemed cool. Like I would just find, I'd find a piece of photography I liked, and I collected a few. And then since then, I'll collect. Like I bought the Raph Cressetti Cozy Pepe. I bought that, and if it's really like I don't consider myself a collector at all, especially because I make my living from the art now. But if I feel really compelled, I will buy a piece.
Do you have a favorite piece that you own?
Oh shoot. Gosh, yeah, I'd say it's between Young Weekend. I own a piece from him, and the Raph Cressetti, the Cozy Pepe, for sure.
And is that something you just bought just randomly, or did you know the artist?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, he's a good friend of mine. He works at Manifold, and he helped me code the rose, the ethereal rose. Yeah, that's one of the pieces right there, the City Parks, and I collected another one. If you scroll down, it's like he does generative art. He's a genius. He's definitely a future legend in the space for sure.
Well, cool. I'll have to check him out. And then
yeah, he's great.
Is there a piece that you like really want to own, or kind of wish you had bought maybe before it blew up or something?
I wish I would have bought one of my right click prints, to be honest, back before they skyrocketed in price, because that's one of my favorite pieces I've ever created. It was like the prove me moment. Like it was a moment I felt like I proved myself, because I came off the Xcopy collab, and it was like okay, this is like your make or break. You gotta now's your time. So I was really proud of that piece. So yeah, I wish I would have kept one of those. But for other artists, yeah, I mean, I wish I owned All Time High in the City. I think that's my favorite piece, or Last Selfie. Those are my two favorite Xcopy pieces.
Yeah, that's Last Selfie is so epic. That's definitely one of my favorite pieces.
Yeah, it's an edition piece, but it just doesn't have an edition vibe. Like it doesn't matter how many there are. I still want one.
And then I'm curious. You did say you quit your job, which I'm sure helps, but I know I personally have found recently that it's kind of getting overwhelming keeping up with everything. How do you find balance with all this craziness? How do you find balance in your life?
Yeah, so, gosh, I'm fortunate that my wife is like super supportive, and she makes sure I have time to, spend in the office making art and doing Discord and just doing the things that we do. And also, like, when I was like from July, or like from May to November, I was still working and just doing both full time. And it was really taxing. Like I wasn't exercising. I wasn't eating right. I was staying up till 2, 3 a.m. every night, finishing art, getting up for work. And so, yeah, now I've just made it a point to at least do some sort of exercise, 10 minutes, 15 minutes a day, and just disconnect. Like, and it's still hard, but like I try to keep this as like a schedule. So like I'll get up and I'll work on art, in the morning. I'll eat lunch and I'll do more art, and I'll end, I have 3 daughters. So when they get home from school, I'll chill on the art until they go to bed, and then I'll jump back on, or I'll hang out with my wife or whatever. So I try to make it a schedule, but I think exercising is definitely crucial.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's definitely something I do as well. One other question: have you done any major like splurge purchases in real life with your money that you've received over the last year?
No, all I bought was I bought a Tesla Model Y. I wanted one. I mean, I wanted one forever, and yeah. So the only thing I bought was a Tesla Model Y. And yeah, other than that, we try to be like pretty cautious and just like safe, because this is our money now. So like this is my career. So I want to be smart and provide, set it up generationally if I can. So
you're not doing leveraged bets on shitcoins on random exchanges?
No, man. Like I keep some Ethan, but like I'm getting taxed out the wazoo, it's a good problem to have. So yeah, I keep some Ethan just to be able to participate in certain drops that I like, or if my friends have art that I really want to help. Or not help, but like that I really like and I want to help support, or whatever, I try to keep some Ethan for that. But other than that, I'm not as degen as most of you guys.
That's probably a good thing. I did want to ask you, I forgot to ask you about Tezos, and I wanted to kind of hear what you thought about using Tezos for art. I know you've done a few NFTs on, I think one on Hin and one on Object at least.
Yeah. I think it's cool. Like their community is really strong. Like this one, XR Vibes, I didn't anticipate would sell out, to be honest. And because I set the price kind of high, I guess, in Tezos terms. I forget the price right now, but I think it.
Dude, how amazing! There's 69 editions, and the floor is 420 Tezos. What could be better?
Oh my god! Wow, I'm glad you documented this. This is epic.
Amazing.
But yeah, so no, I love the platform and the community. And obviously the gas fees are just not, they're very, it's so cheap that it just makes it kind of fun. But I think it's probably something I might do once or twice a year, to be honest. I wouldn't be on there. I wouldn't mint on there 3, 4, 5 times a year. I just, for me personally, it just doesn't seem like the right move. But maybe once, maybe twice a year, you'll catch a piece from me on there.
Yeah, I have the other piece, WAGME. I couldn't find it. I guess it's on Hin. Is it on Hin, I guess?
It should show up if you click on my address on there. Yeah, the GM, 1GM.
This stuff will all get developed better. There it is. Yeah,
okay.
I love that piece.
Yeah, that was
That's
a fun one. Yeah, it seemed like the perfect Genesis Tez piece for me. So yeah, I went with it.
Yeah, and you got the little Twitter birds. Yeah. Well, cool, man. Thanks so much for joining us and being our first ever guest on the podcast. It was a real honor.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I mean, it was an honor to be here and to be the first guest. I've appreciated your support and friendship and the rest of the guys as well. And yeah, I'm really excited. I have this piece coming out on the 18th. A very special, insane piece. Yeah, I can't really say anything about it, but I can't wait to drop it. And yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see the reaction from everybody on this one.